Hey friends, I am so excited to be talking to you today about the digestive system. This is an area that I absolutely love. And one of the things that I want to help all of you guys better understand what's happening inside of you. And simple steps that you guys can make that will drastically improve your overall digestive functions, the gas, the bloating, the constipation, all of those different things. So today we're going to walk through the digestive system from top, right here, top brain, you'll get that in just a second, to bottom, all right? So the entire process and just some of the basics, some of it will go a little bit more in depth, but I want to give you a better understanding. So give me just 1 second. I'm gonna share my screen with you and you guys can have some visual aids. All right, so here we go. This is our digestive process. Now, most people, when you ask them, where does a digestive system start? Where does it start? It actually starts in the brain, but most people think it starts in the mouth, which as soon as we start smelling food, thinking about food, the salivary glands inside of our mouth begin to produce saliva. We swallow, and it goes down into our stomach, which then tells our stomach, hey, we're gonna have some food coming, start working, start getting ready. And so your stomach acid in your stomach is starting to prepare for the changes that are coming, okay? So it's all starting as soon as you smell, see, think of food, all of those different things, those salivary glands start. Now we take our first bite of that, and we want to make sure that that first bite is small and that it's very manageable and that we're not, chewing, which young kids typically have an issue with this. Some adults do, but the smaller the bite is, that as a comfortable size, not like a little tiny nibble, but just a comfortable size, allows us to spend the time to truly chew our food. And that, again, we want that food to be mixing with the saliva because it goes down into the stomach and it mixes with the pepsin or the hydrochloric acid in there. We'll talk about that in a second. And begins breaking down food. So inside of our mouth, when the food is starting to be chewed, the body begins to break down, the salivary glands begin to break down carbohydrates. That's the first area that begins to break down. And this is why a lot of us tend to crave carbohydrates, is because that tongue is tasting it with a sweetness and it's beginning to break down there. We swallow, okay, and it goes down our esophagus into our stomach. And the esophagus has a movement that's called peristalsis. This is the same movement that happens in our intestines, but it's kind of this contracting, right? It's squeezing the food down, down, down. Now, some of the clients that I've worked with have had hiatal hernias where the food just kind of stays there and they have to like almost manually push the food down into their stomach, and so it finally drops in there. Okay, so for most of us, it should work pretty well where we're able to swallow. The esophagus uses those soft muscles to push it down into our stomach. And from there, the stomach acid, the hydrochloric acid, or the pepsin begins to further break down the food. This is where the breakdown of carbohydrates and proteins, it begins breaking down proteins in there. Now, in our stomach, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit for you guys to see. This is our stomach. And you can see there's a lot of different pieces and components of this, but the lower esophageal sphincter, that's where, that's the opening from the esophagus, okay? And it drops into the stomach. Now, inside of our stomach, there is this like gnawing and turning, and I like to think of it as like a washing machine, right? It's agitating that food, it's flipping it around, it's contracting, it's pushing, it's moving, right? All of those muscles are beginning to break down the food even further than in our mouth. Now, if we spend the time chewing, that makes it easier for our stomach. And now food will sit in our stomach for between 2 to 6 hours. That's sign language, okay, 6. I have a habit of doing that. So 2 to 6 hours in our stomach. And during that time, again, it's mixing with that stomach acid. And if we've done our job correctly by chewing that food and breaking it down, it makes it easier for our stomach. Okay, this is where we can start to feel bloated. This is where we start to feel that heartburn and that acid reflux. Now, if you're experiencing some of those symptoms, it may be because you don't have a good, healthy stomach acid, and there might not be enough in there. So that's something that you do discuss with your primary care physician and talk about what you guys can do a little bit further and what foods could potentially help you to build up the integrity of that hydrochloric acid to begin reducing that bloating, reducing that heartburn and that indigestion. And there was something else I was going to say, but anyways, we'll keep moving. It'll come back to me. So from there, there is the pyloric sphincter that opens up into the duodenum, and that is always kind of a little bit open, but when the food it brings in about 1 to 2 tablespoons at a time into the small intestines, all right? So it's open and it's slowly dropping that food in. As that food has become very acidic, it will be about a pH of 1 to 2. So again, this is important to have good, healthy hydrochloric acid, pepsin, in the stomach, because that allows the food to be emptying into the small intestine on that regular basis. All right, let me see. Now we're going to go down to the small intestine. I'm going to go up so you guys can see. So now, and something that I want to point out that I kind of forgot a couple minutes ago, is that your stomach is like on your left-hand side and kind of just below your ribs, okay? Underneath those ribs where your ribs are kind of protecting it. That is where your stomach is. Now on the other side, on your right side, underneath your ribs is where your liver is. And the liver is being stimulated as the food is dropping down into that duodenum, that first part of your small intestines, okay? That's where your liver, your pancreas, your gallbladder, all of that are starting to work and starting to mix with the food, and it's starting to secrete insulin from your pancreas. Now, right here, I wonder if I can highlight this a little bit better for you guys. So right here, this is your pancreas that is producing the insulin. This is your liver, and this right here is your gallbladder, okay? So you can see that the stomach is right here, and it's coming down, right? That's the duodenum part where it's starting to come down, and when it's making that first little curve, the food is making that first little curve, that is where your gallbladder is secreting the bile, and again, further breaking down that food. And the pancreas is being stimulated. So there's all kinds of stuff that's constantly happening in there. Then you guys go into the second part, which is the jejunum. Now, the jejunum of the small intestines is where most of the absorption is happening in the small intestines. Now, this is kind of what your villi looks like. Are these little things that are like these little finger-like hairs, and food is supposed to pass over them and get all the way down and to be absorbed. Now, if we have food sensitivities, if we have autoimmune diseases like celiac, those hairs begin to fall down, okay, and they become compromised, making the food not absorb. and the absorption that is happening is going into the bloodstream. And those are your vitamins, your minerals, those nutrients are being absorbed all along the way. Okay, and I'm going to go back up right here. So you go through the jejunum and then the ileum, and right as it's getting ready to leave the ileum is where we enter into the colon or the large intestines. And this is in the small intestines, large intestines, this is where the fats begin to break down. Okay, those healthy fats that we're eating are in your small intestines. Now, anything that hasn't been absorbed, the first part of the colon, that after the food enters into the colon, there will be a small amount of absorption of the things that are kind of left over, right? The fiber, some of the fiber and some of the other nutrients, the fatty acids. And then the food begins to go up, ascending, then it goes transverse across and down. And then, so in order for us to know, let's see, it's not working very, there we go. Okay, it's being a little bit silly. Anyways, so this last little part that I'm tracing with this little thing, this little circle thing, that is where the poop or the stool begins to pile up. And when you have a bowel movement, what you're looking for, and I'll be sharing some videos and things with you, is for kind of an S shape. Because as it's piling up, it makes this little S shape before leaving the body and being excreted out of the rectum, all right? So that is the process of digestion. And I wanted to share that with you guys today because I felt like this was just something that you guys needed to know how your body is working. So some simple things that you guys can do is, number one, chew your food. Number two, eat fiber-rich foods. You want to be eating, I tell my clients about 35 grams. 30 grams is great, but 30 to 35 grams of fiber every single day. This is going to keep things moving. It's going to keep things flowing. And allowing your body to have a rest period without food for about 12 hours. Okay, so if you eat at 7 o'clock at night, don't eat until roughly 7 o'clock in the morning. Because during those 12 hours, your digestive system is pushing and moving things along without having to exert energy in the mouth and in the stomach and in the small intestines and in the liver and in the gallbladder and in the pancreas and all the different parts, right? And so our body needs that time to kind of rest and restore and to work and put the energy where it needs to be for a period of time. So most of us, this really isn't an issue. You know, let's say you eat at 7 and you wake up at 6 and you're hungry, you feel that hunger in your stomach. It's okay to go ahead and eat at 6 a.m. in the morning. But generally speaking, you want to allow your body to have that 12-hour rest period. This is what a lot of the people who are doing things like intermittent fasting, this is something that they're doing because they're now starting to recognize how important this is for their digestive system. Excuse me, I need to drink water. Oh, it's all gone, guys. Dang it. They recognize that their body needs that. They recognize that their transit time from, eating from top to bottom, right, is much faster. The other thing, if you guys are like, well, I don't know if I work fast or slow or, where am I on the scale? Before I tell you this, you need to consult with your medical professional, your physician, especially if this is not something for people who have diverticulitis or ulcerative colitis or major digestive issues. Okay, this could aggravate it and cause some more inflammation and just a lot of discomfort. But If you are very average with your digestive system and you're kind of trying to figure out where you're at, you guys can do 2 tablespoons of the white sesame seeds and about 3 ounces of water. Drink it really fast. Do not chew. This is the only time that I'm going to tell you not to chew it. Don't chew it, but just swallow it and write down the time that you have done that. So today is Friday at like 12:30. So I'd write down on a piece of paper, Friday, 12:30, and then I would wait to see how long it would take for me to start to see those little white sesame seeds in my stool. And I would calculate from the first time that I saw them to the last time. So if I see them, tomorrow morning, we want to have between 12 and 16 hours of a transit time. Okay, that would be considered average. That would be considered normal. Now, if you do that and you see them in 3 or 4 hours, we know there's something major happening in your digestive system and you're probably not absorbing, you're not getting the nutrients that you need, and there's things that we can do to course correct with that information. Okay. Now, if you're going 3 days before seeing those white sesame seeds in your stool, then we also know that there are some other issues that need to be course corrected. So, as a recap, chew your food. What are the other ones? Okay, chew your food, take small bites, allow your body that 12-hour window to fully digest the food, and you guys can test that out and see what is working and what is not working for you. And absolutely, if you guys have any questions about the digestive system, please reach out to me and let me know. I'm happy to help you, happy to support you in any way possible, and I will be uploading some additional tools and resources and knowledge for you on what a healthy poop looks like and just other information that you guys are going to be interested in. And all right, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you learned something new. Now go share it and teach it to somebody else.